former Tory party chair, Sir Jake Berry. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, Jeremy. Good evening to you.
Jake, so much I want to start with. Can I just ask about Lee Anderson, Deputy Tory party chair, who seems to have shocked a lot of people, but he actually came out and said the country deserves an explanation from the Tory government who have failed on immigration. Do you agree?
No, do you know what? Lee Anderson just reflects the views of most normal people in this country who just say, what the hell is going on with immigration? We've heard from the government, they've done lots of things, but it just ain't working. And I think Lee speaks to the frustration that my constituents would have in Rosendale and Darwin. We understand there's no simple solution, but we expect the government to leave no stone unturned. So while I don't always choose the same language as Lee Anderson, I actually agree with a lot of what he said.
I mean, last week, Small Boats Week, a great piece of PR. The truth is, only 15 people, Jake, were moved onto the Bibby Stockholm barge, right? The rest apparently grabbed hold of a dodgy immigration law and said, we don't like being on water. That's farcical. 3 days later, they're all moved off because of Legionnaire's outbreak, apparently, in the water. Even more farcical. And as I said in the introduction, the frightening reality on Saturday, 6 people dying in the Channel. I read Trevor Kavanagh's amazing piece in The Sun this morning, and he says we need to get hold of ways of dealing with these criminal gangs. We need to toughen up in this country, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. And I think what you'll see from the government's approach is that, there is a lot of tough talking and quite a lot of tough doing. It was the right thing to move people onto the barge. I mean, absolutely ridiculous and unfortunate for the government that they didn't have the Legionella test back before they put them there. It was like a sort of episode of the Navy Lark or something like that.
Yeah.
John Pertwee would be, starring in it. It is ridiculous. But I think people want the government to get tough. They want these people out of their hotels in Blackpool, where they'd normally this time of year be going on holiday. They want them on barges. They want them in tents on army camps. They do not want Britain to be a soft touch. And I think that's what the government's starting to do. And, if it's going to stand any chance, not just of winning the election, but stopping this, it's much more important to stop this and not see 6 people tragically killed in the Channel than it is for any government to win an election. If they're going to stand any chance of doing either of that, they've got to go much further. And that's why I've been calling for the introduction of a British Bill of Rights to free our country from the ECHR, which does seem like a significant hobble or sort of clog on what the government would like to do in terms of protecting our sovereign immigration policy here in the United Kingdom. I
mean, I understand the ECHR, and I've had this discussion on the show before, Jake, and people will say to me, but it's much more than immigration. But people have attached themselves to that. I'm not blaming this on you, but this government in 13 years, their record in immigration is woeful, right? And by the way, there's that leaked memo today saying it could be another 5 years, and I don't in any way, despite what Nick and anybody else will tell me, I don't believe that Labour has a plan. But I want to put something to you that was put to me last week by, I think it was Alex Shelbock or Shelbourne, I'm not sure. He said to me that the concern amongst a lot of people is that it's all right to have a soundbite and say we're gonna get rid of the small boats, we're going to stop this, that the government actually don't themselves even bloody well believe that they can do this, that it's just another soundbite to try and get people on side. I find it astonishing, Jake, that 13 years and beyond of government, somebody hasn't gone, this is going to be a problem. Our processing system is, without doubt, completely useless. We've got a backlog of thousands. Why have we allowed ourselves to get in this position? Because, as you say, the people in your constituency who are fighting a cost of living crisis, this is the #1 thing on people's minds, and they are fed up, mate, of politicians who seem to say, we're going to sort it out, and it gets worse every week, right? It's a fact.
Well, look, there's lots of questions there. Let me try and deal with them in terms of the immigration policy of this country. It's quite a good one. We've allowed 500,000 people to come to this country legally from Afghanistan, from Hong Kong, from Ukraine. We have got a good immigration policy. The challenge we have are the people who are abusing it, jumping the queue and coming to this country illegally. That is what the government has to deal with, and that is what the British people expect, to have a sovereign immigration policy designed by British politicians, defended by our government. And that is what we can't do currently as a member of the ECHR. And I know people have concerns about us leaving it. That's why I proposed the British Bill of Rights to replace the ECHR. I've proposed ideas like we put the right to use the NHS as the first clause on it, because that is fundamentally British. It's part of our value set. But the government has got to keep getting tough on illegal migrants. The giveaway is in the title. They come to this country illegally. But it's all very well to say, well, it's been really bad for 13 years. It hasn't. This sort of route across the channel opened up about a year before the pandemic, and we have been subject to people using this route supported by illegal people.
Jake,
it's a relatively recent problem. Yeah.
Final question. Why don't the Tory government create legal routes then? Why don't they do that? And then if people come on those legal routes illegally, we can send them straight back. I don't understand that. You'll have to explain that to me briefly.
Well, let me explain it to you. That when I talked about 500,000 people coming to this country, I meant legally. We are a welcoming country that has welcomed people from Hong Kong, Afghanistan, and Ukraine being the biggest ones, quite correctly. We have allowed 500,000 people into this country legally. It's the 50,000, 60,000 who are coming illegally that we have to crack down on.